already we see a lot of attendees joining in. Thank you. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're connecting from. Welcome to the Citrix Ready technical webinar series, where we showcase how Citrix and our partners, like NetScout, have integrated to deliver valuable products and solutions to common problems faced by our customers. I am Anil Kumar, your host today, and I'm part of Citrix Ready technical marketing team managing the network ecosystem. We have NetScout with us today. We'll see how NetScout's ingenious one service assurance platform helps detect and solve performance issues impacting Citrix services. Along with me today, I have our main speaker, Ray Crook, Senior Solutions Engineer with NetScout's Enterprise Business Operations team. Ray has been with NetScout for almost 5 years and is focused on defining strategy and product alignment for enterprise businesses. Ray is also an industry veteran that has developed product strategy and technical sales positioning to enterprises and public sector customers for IT and UC operations. Hi, Ray. Could we move to the next slide?
Sure thing.
Yeah. All right, so to introduce Citrix Ready, Citrix Ready is an end-to-end technology partner program that showcases and recommends third-party products, solutions, and services that demonstrate compatibility with Citrix products. Customers can quickly and easily find solutions recommended by Citrix in our Citrix Ready marketplace, hosted at citrix.com/ready. And if you're interested to learn more about our Citrix Ready program, you could navigate to our partner programs page at citrix.com and at the below link. Right, so I'm personally very excited and proud to host today's webinar because ingenious one is one of the products I really wished we had back in the days when I was working as Citrix administrator. We used to get a lot of issues where we had to spend hours together to root cause issues. Today we'll see how ingenious one can be very helpful to our administrators and customers to quickly root cause the issues and reduce downtimes. We are proud to have NetScout as our premier partner of the Citrix Ready program. We at Citrix, along with NetScout, working together to deliver highly available, always on Citrix app and desktop virtualization. NetScout's ingenious one service assurance platform is an ideal complement to our secure mobility solutions. So without any further ado, let me hand it over to Ray. Just one housekeeping item. So if you have any questions during the webinar, please use the question panel available on the right-hand side, and we'll address them during our question and answer session in the end of the webinar. All right, so please welcome our main speaker, Ray, Senior Solutions Engineer with NetScout. Hi, Ray. Welcome to the technical webinar series once again, and let me hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Anil. Yeah, I'm pleased to be a premier partner for the XenApp, Zen Desktop, and NetScaler systems, and we've been we've licensed the technology of the ICA decodes for the past 15 years. So this is not new to us. We've been doing this for a long time to actually understand the performance of Citrix services. In fact, the NetScout itself is a company over 30 years old. Anyway, without further ado, the Citrix partnership is all about how NetScout can add value to the actual Citrix product line as well. And what it's focused on, the key area that it's focused on is day-to-day issues that come along. So these are all popular ones. It takes forever to log in. I keep getting kicked out. You see these pinwheels. You see Citrix receiver errors, and of course you think it's Citrix that's the problem, but it's not necessarily the case. There's so many other components going on, the network, the servers, the back-end applications. Often Citrix gets the blame, and often it's not. So having the ability to triage and to understand exactly what's going on is key to actually making sure that these services remain at high utilization and doesn't impede business activities. The problem, of course, is that it's it's got a lot of operational silos to actually deliver these services. And these operational silos are delivered by different teams. So you've got database teams, application teams, network teams, server teams, desktop teams. And when it comes to a problem, who do you go? Who do you call? So you kind of call everybody. You put everybody together in a war room. Everybody's trying to defend their area of the infrastructure, the network, the database. They've all got their own tools, looking at their areas. They log into their database and tell you, oh yeah, that's up. They look at the server and they see the CPU utilization is fine. They look at their network and see the bits per second are fine. And of course, you look at the various servers and it sees, okay, I've got enough memory for all of this. But they've all different tools, different languages that they're using in order to try and resolve these issues. The result, finger pointing, it's not me. And of course, Citrix is a classic one. I haven't put a Citrix team there, but it might be the server team that's actually managing the Citrix organization, and it's all trying to say defend their own territory. So there's this inefficient process of triage going on because there's no holistic view and visibility of what's going on in the infrastructure to enable collaboration. And of course, this is where we come in. And how do we come in? By leveraging the network. Today, more than ever before, the network is the eyes and ears of the fully connected world. And if it's leveraged correctly, it enables holistic service assurance and triaging capabilities. And that's what we're all about, leveraging the data that's in the network and actually producing key performance metrics to allow you to triage the services, any service running over your infrastructure. So how do we do this? Well, we have a key secret sauce there, and it's called ASI, or Adaptive Service Intelligence. Think of it like this. It's this video camera that's got this visibility over the interaction in your data center, in your infrastructure, looking at the client-server connectivity, whether that's between users talking to a web server via a load balancer through a firewall, or whether it's a Citrix user accessing a NetScaler, accessing the back-end Citrix services, accessing maybe back-end multi-tiered applications for CRM or SAP or ERP or other applications as well. So ASI has this visibility, and it does a couple of things. Number one, it is instrumented in the network, so we see that by connecting via span ports or tap ports. And basically, we actually record all the traffic that's going across the network. Number two, we analyze in real time all these network traffic and produce a series of key performance metrics showing the understanding of the service quality traveling over the network. That's what ASI is all about, understanding latencies between client-server and how busy servers are, understanding whether there's slow performance between a user and a web server, whether there's errors being produced between an app server and a database server. And that's what ASI gives you the ability to do and investigate what's going on. So with ASI, that's metrics, but what we also have is a platform to leverage those metrics, and that's called ingenious One. ingenious One gives you a common workflow across all these technologies in your infrastructure, allowing you to start, let's say, with a dashboard indicating how the service is performing and understanding the different tiers of a service to enable you to drill down into a specific tier, see what's going on, and then see what the actual root cause is. So we start with a dashboard, highlights one layer, Then we actually drill down into what we call a service monitor, which gives you a view of, let's say, all the servers in that service and see how they're performing. And then we can drill down into a session view to take a look at what's going on, give you the specifics, the interaction, ladder diagram, as it were, of that service. And then if you want to, you can get down to packets as well. But typically, when we're coming to resolving these issues, these are all done at the dashboard and service monitor level. So that's actually pretty critical when it comes to be able to leverage this for reducing the mean time to resolve a problem. It's actually reducing the mean time to knowledge. Understanding where the problem is so that you can get the right team involved in solving that problem rather than having these war room environments where everybody is finger pointing at each other and defending their own area. The Citrix landscape, okay, in any case, any data center landscape is pretty complex. And here we see a number of components going here. Some of them are Citrix specific, like the storefront, the delivery center, the license server, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the Zen app servers, the Zen desktop servers. We also see a network. We also see service enablers like DNS, DHCP, Radius, LDAP, and Active Directory. And we also see multi-tiered apps at the back end, like database servers and web servers. So we see they're all interconnected as like the data center part of what a service delivery requires. And then at the front end, you've got the branch offices or headquarters and people, let's say, dialing in using the Citrix receiver across the WAN over the internet and connecting into these services and actually getting access to the Citrix, the Zen apps, the published apps, or the actual virtual desktops, the VDI services themselves. So of course, there's a lot to go wrong, and it's not just Citrix that could be the root cause. Is there a problem in the WAN? Is there a problem in the internet? Is there a problem in the back-end database servers? And of course, it could be a problem in the Citrix area as well. So ASI, as you can see there, leverages and gives you that visibility, that holistic visibility of what's going on so that you actually quickly triage and ensure these critical business services are up and running effectively. And if there are problems, quickly getting to the root cause. So just expanding upon that, it's a technical webinar. Don't want to go too technical, but I just thought I'd articulate some of the different layers that could be involved in your service. You have the remote users connecting, let's say, over the WAN through a NetScaler. You've got critical service enablers, which make the network work. You've then got the storefront services to actually give you the services that you're allowed based on authentication and licensing, etc. And then you've got access to the VDI, the desktop servers, and the Zen app servers. So that's not where it ends. That's just kind of the front end and the delivery mechanism. But of course, what is it delivering? It's delivering applications. It is delivering features for your business. And they're often delivered by a whole host of other back-end servers and services like front-end servers, middleware servers, database servers, etc. They could even be instrumented out, also delivered from the cloud as well. But anyway, in terms of the components that are going on there, what you see, of course, is DNS and Active Directory. Without that, you don't get authentication, you don't get connection. So every one of those components, those layers, depend on these service enablers. They're critical to anything going on. And included in those service enablers, I always think of the network as well, because that's, of course, enabling technology for connectivity. Then in terms of interaction, you've got the users talking to the NetScalers by TLS, SSL. You've then got that offload on HTTP to the storefront server. So that's actually giving you visibility of what you can choose. And then, of course, you set up the service, set up the session, and then you're using Citrix ICA protocol, CGP protocol, and looking at what's the traffic's going there across then between the remote users to the actual Zen VDI, Zen desktop or VDI services that you have. And as I said, of course, they may be front-ending this multi-tiered application. So all of this needs to be functioning well for the service, the Citrix server, but actually the business application to be operating effectively. So what we're able to do with ASI is visualize this. So ASI sees all those layers as I've described and can discover the interconnectivity of all those interactions. So this looks kind of like a complex map of connection, like the London Underground, perhaps. However, when you actually look at it, I mean, again, it's a PowerPoint, so you can't necessarily read the actual detail, but what it represents is user communities connecting to the NetScaler externally. So you see that the connectivity going on down there. And then you see start the back-end service going on there, the NetScaler internally talking to the storefront servers, delivery cloud controller, the SQL Server controller database, and those sort of aspects. And what we can then actually see as well is, okay, once you've got the session initiated to the client, you see the interaction to the Zen app servers and the Zen BDI servers, the different servers there. And like I said before, then you have the critical service enabler like Active Directory and DNS. Everything's talking to that. And then finally, you've got this back-end service, and I've just included the web service that the Zen app or the Zen desktop is actually connecting to, and that's just the front end to that application tier. So the point here is this was discovered. We didn't have to seed this with IP addresses of servers, of the IP address of the NetScaler, of the storefront, and all of that, and seed it with everything that it needed to discover. This is discovery. This is like looking at the network traffic, seeing the protocols running, and then creating this interrelationship between the various devices, should we say, the users and the servers and the NetScalers and the Zen apps that actually connecting. So this is often a surprise to people. Oh, I didn't realize those Zen app servers were deployed, or those these virtual desktop servers were on my network. I didn't know that this was connecting to Oracle. That wasn't supposed to be connecting this way. I didn't know these sort of things. So because we're discovering this, this often becomes a surprise to people and hugely valuable to seeing whether as designed is the same as built, and often it's not. So just talking about ASI one more time, verified Citrix performance with ASI. I've kind of divided this into three main categories here in terms of saying ASI looks at the network. So we see capacity of the network, we see the whether it's congested, we see whether the cross is prioritized. But we also talk here about the enablers because they're also part of that infrastructure. So DNS, DHCP, LDAP, etc. Having visibility through ASI or both of those things allows us to leverage and say, hey, this problem is not Citrix, it's actually a DNS problem. It's not looking up the correct address and therefore it's going through some old technology, or it's not connecting correctly. Oh, my network is not engineered correctly because I haven't classified everything to high priority that I need, so it's not getting through a high priority. So that's one thing that ASI offers. Second thing, performance of front-end ICA protocols, HTTPS, CGP, those sort of things. So that's kind of at the client end going to, let's say, the NetScaler or the storefront. So having visibility of that gives us ability to see whether that front end is actually misbehaving. And I'm not talking about the actual devices themselves. It may be traffic in the network that's getting impeded and causing applications to slow down. Then, of course, we can consider what I might say the back-end infrastructure. So these are the kind of the hidden things, the Citrix, the storefront, the web service, and how load balancing is working between the NetScalers and the storefront web servers. Again, we see not only the performance of the interaction between the NetScaler and the storefront, we also see how many transactions are going through, and we see that distributed amongst all the storefront servers. So we actually get visibility of how they're balanced. Same story with the Zen app and Zen desktop service. We actually see the interaction, let's say, between the NetScalers using ICA or CGP of the server load of all the Zen app servers and desktop servers, and the consequent responsiveness of those. And that goes down to the published app level. Then, of course, we've got the back-end SQL Server and the database server that's running as part of the Citrix service itself. So we can see the Citrix layer, the Citrix backend layer. And then, okay, I always like to say this, and then it's not Citrix. And what I mean by that, it's not the Citrix backend, it's actually an application that's running. So that could be anything, right? Oracle, e-business suite, SAP, CRM, Exchange, SharePoint. You might be hosting a lot of stuff through Citrix. And after all, that's why Citrix gets the blame, because what did the user log into? Storefront. And they know it's Citrix, it's branded Citrix. What are they having problems with? Okay, my CRM system. But, you know, Citrix is slow. And as you can see here, it's almost unlikely to be Citrix. It can be any one of those other things that could be the root cause. So what I wanted to move on is just give you a flavor of a number of use cases, just to kind of put this into action. And I'm going to go through 3 use cases to talk about how ingenious One can visualize the data from ASI and help you get quickly to the root cause of day-to-day problems. We'll start off with the obvious one, triaging slow applications, so that we can see, okay, this pinwheel or this connection, it's not usable during peak times, all very familiar issues. Okay, Citrix is the problem, or is it? So what we do, right, we see this visualization I showed you earlier on about that end-to-end interaction of a Citrix service and effectively what I effectively called the layers or the tiers. What ingenious One does, it splits it up into an easy visualization of those layers. This is a service dashboard, and what we've done, we've kind of put together the different layers and create a tile or a service card, whatever you want to call it, of the performance of those different layers. And we see external users, 10% are problematic, NetScalers 6%, enablers, Citrix, and the app tier. So we see all those, in this case, 5 layers, and we see how well they're performing. And we can, of course, see there's a problem here, external users. That's the worst performing tile, as we say. So what we're able to do is see that and take a look at that layer and see inside it and see what's going on. So we know there's a problem with external users. We can drill down to the next layer, and then we can see, okay, well, which group of users are having the most problems? And it's pretty obvious here. If this was interactive, I would ask you to tell me which one was the worst layer. However, we can see that 92% of the users in London are suffering, or the transactions going off in London are suffering. So we kind of have isolated this problem. The report might have come in as Citrix is slow today, as it were, or my application is slow. Let's be fair, my application is slow today. This dashboard has very quickly got us to, well, actually, it's not everybody, it's just London users that are experiencing the problem. So that already helps us see what's going on. From there, we can drill down into our service monitor. I've kept things simple here, and this is actually drilling down into the London users, their interaction with the NetScaler. And we can see at the highest level key metrics, and then a series of charts giving you historical behavior of that interaction. So here we go, it's sort of blown up. We've got client side is London. We're seeing web traffic going to the NetScaler. We're seeing now how many transactions, the total number of transactions going on over that period. And then we bucketize them into a series of performance areas, fast, slow, and timeout. And those are customizable, but we've pretty much got a lot of experience to understand what's going on. Fast is obvious, slow is obvious. Timeout is something interesting, is that it's like when it's gone over a certain amount of time when you might as well give up. So, okay, with Citrix interaction, you might look at 200 milliseconds for an interaction, and then it starts to degrade. So we can customize that so that you can see how many timeouts effectively, that the responsiveness of that service to the London users. So that kind of gives us a clue as to why London's highlighted, and then we get further information in terms of responsiveness, peak responsive time, and retransmissions. So we're obviously seeing a network issue in terms of the London clients that are trying to connect to the NetScaler and they're retransmitting, et cetera, et cetera. So we're seeing something clearly going on in the network. So that's great. It's not happening for the other users, because if you remember from the previous tile, it was London which had the exceptionally bad performance. So we have really highlighted this to, rather than a data center problem, to a London problem. So we've got more information here that we can actually take a look at. And what's that? It's the WAN information. Again, because we're instrumented in the network, we see everything running on the network. And in this case, if we look at the London WAN, we see highly utilized, generating a number of alerts. That's what these guys are there for, the 10 and 24 serious alerts and moderate alerts. We can see that it's heavily utilized. We can see it's generating alerts. So what we can do is understand why is it generating alerts, why is it so heavily utilized. So there's a lot of drill downs we can do. And what I wanted to do is make an understanding saying, look, so normally cross classification will actually allow you to overcome problems when a WAN is congested. We know Citrix is suffering. We know it's suffering in London. So is my cross set correctly? It may or may not be the case. It may, are the queues big enough? What else is going on that link at the same time? So what is that erratic behavior for that WAN? Is it something that I need to look at? Is desktop video affecting it, or is it another data application? So what we're very easily able to do is uncover that and take a look at that particular link. So I've now shown you the application monitor, which actually gives you visibility into the London WAN. And again, we're keeping things simple. We can see utilization of that link, 98%. We can see all the applications running over that link. So we've got a whole host of them: audio, SMB, web, SIP, Citrix, and DNS, etc. So we have a whole load of applications running on there. But we can also see over time view. So we can see actually it peaked at 210 and at 250. So something extreme was going on at those times, probably when the users were complaining, because we can see that mix of traffic, and we can see that at the peaks of traffic may be causing the issue. So let's take a look at the QoS to see whether the prioritization is working in the actual infrastructure. We'll look at the high priority queue, QoS 46, and then see what traffic's going on the high priority queue. Well, actually, interestingly enough, audio and SIP are going. So that part of the configuration works. So people aren't complaining about voice, they're complaining about their application. And it looks like audio and SIP are using the priority queue, and that probably explains why they're not complaining. So when I look at the QoS 0 queue, the best effort queue, I can see NetScaler traffic. So that's not really good. I can see a bit of audio traffic as well going there, so that's interesting. But I can see also a lot of SMB traffic peaking at those times. So that's what's going on in my network. I've got now the NetScaler traffic, which is time sensitive. We know that. We've seen slow interaction of NetScaler traffic, but it's contending for bandwidth at those peak times with SMB. So what's going on? So we can look at that, and what we can do is take a look. Who's doing that big file transfer at those times? And very quickly, we look at the top talker of SMB, and we find it very straightforwardly. We see a user in London on the 1020 network talking to a server, which is actually hosted in the data center, and they're doing large file transfers, and much bigger than anything else. And obviously, that's on the best effort queue, same as the Citrix traffic. It's not surprising that Citrix is suffering. So we've uncovered quite a lot here. We've uncovered that London users are suffering. We've uncovered that their voice is not suffering, but their Citrix is suffering. We've also discovered that the Citrix is not in the priority queue, it's in the best effort queue, and we've discovered that there's a rogue client doing something. He might not even know he's doing it. He might think he's just file transferring to another local PC. He might just not know where that is. So we can actually start to investigate that further. The QoS settings, the bandwidth utilizations, this rogue application or rogue user using SMB, we've now got the evidence. It's clear, and we can solve this problem. Nothing to do with Citrix. So I was just going to move on to another one. I mean, these let's say mini demos just follow the same format each time, and it just actually shows you the power of using this service dashboard as a workflow to actually get you quickly to the root cause. So here we've got similar issue, poor user experience, random complaints from all active communities. This is all over the place. Again, probably familiar to you guys. But this time, I'll show you the same dashboard as before. We've got a different scenario. We see 7% of our problems within the Citrix layer. So again, I can use this straightforward to actually drill down into my Citrix layer. And when I do that, I see all those components of Citrix. And remember, these components, and I'll just bring that down there, are just our visibility of the interaction between the layers. So let's say the traffic, the Zen app here is the traffic from the NetScaler to the Zen app. traffic to the Citrix licensing, the traffic to the SQL Server data store, the web traffic to the storefront, the CGP traffic to the Zen desktop. So we have that visibility of how each of those layers are performing. And again, in this example, we can see what particular part is actually suffering. In this case, okay, hands up, it is Citrix, it's the Zen app server, but of course we can look into detail, which Zen app server, which published app, what's going on. So we use that as our leverage to go into the service monitor, and in this case we have visibility of the interactions between the servers and the applications and the published apps, and see how they're performing. And okay, I'll just blow this up a little bit, and we see here we're able to take each of these columns. I've got like the total transactions, how many have been successful, the percentage of success, the slow, and we remember we had the fast, slow, and degraded things, and timeouts. I can use this and sort by any of those metrics to get to busiest published app, busiest app server, slowest app server, just like an Excel spreadsheet, and up bubbles to the top the worst performing one. In this case, I can see it's the Zen App 3. I can also see there's problems with the different published apps, calculator. Okay, it's just examples here, PowerPoint or whatever the actual published app might be, and the performance of each individual one running on those app servers. So I've quickly now, out of my pool of maybe 10, 50, 100 Zen app servers, I've now highlighted which one's the slowest and which one relates to the problems that the users experience. So, I mean, I was at the Citrix Synergy showing this. Was it in Orlando this year? I think, yes. And when I showed this to some of the guys, they said, oh yeah, that's really useful, because now I can actually take this Zen app server offline and take a look at what's going on. How is it configured? Why is it different from everybody else? Has it been given enough memory? And those sort of things. But of course, I've got a lot of these servers in my infrastructure. Which one do I go to when the users just generally complain about problems? That's what ingenious one offers you. Okay, so I didn't even need those bullets. So I can also go further, and I can actually take a look at the ICA sessions, and we can see more information. I mean, I've highlighted what we've already delivered at the service monitor, and this is the session view, and we can actually see here which client, which IP address of the client, which is the server name. We can see the ladder diagram, effectively looking at how the interaction, the latency of those interactions to that particular Zen app server from the client. We can see other details like server version level and all those sort of things. And this is everything that we can actually extract using ASI from the network data. So it becomes hugely powerful for getting that next level of detail to help you troubleshoot what's going on. So finally, in this series, application slow. Doesn't that sound familiar? It sounds like everything else. But, okay, so what happens when you have problems with these slow applications, slow databases, and that sort of thing? And, okay, hey presto, it's the same dashboard. We're looking now, at this time, we're seeing some critical alerts. Remember, they appear here as those little red and yellow dashes, showing that there's some critical alerts, this time coming from the app layer. So nothing to do with Citrix, nothing to do with enablers or external users. Could that be why the users are complaining about slow interaction? And of course, yeah. And I can now drill down into the CRM tier, and we have, in this case, the 3 layers as I described in the architecture early on: an app tier, a web tier, and of course the database. Where are the alerts coming from? The database layer. So I can click into that database layer and very quickly have visibility now of the databases that are exhibiting problems. And again, we're keeping things very simple here. We've got 3 databases, and I'll just blow this one up. In fact, I might not even blow it up. The metrics I can actually do is show you the database server name. In this case, I could have done that on database name as an example, but I've done the server name in this case. I can see the latency for different types of messages that's going and interacting from the app server to the database server itself. I can look at average response time as an example, and there's a whole load of key metrics that I can then display here and sort on. So if I actually saw, in this case, an average response time, I see there's a standout server which is performing much, much slower than everybody else. So that's kind of really given me an indication of where the problem lies. And don't forget, I might have many hundreds of database servers or databases that are hosted here. So getting this visibility of which database server or which database is causing the issue is kind of hugely powerful. So I've highlighted my slowest server. I can take a look at historical performance, whether that's suddenly changed at a certain time, and this is the last hour. I could do it the last 6 hours, 24 hours. And I can also look at errors. I can see the errors that are actually going here. And basically what we have here is the visibility of all the different applications errors that are actually occurring over time and seeing what's going on. So that's probably small on your screen, so I'll just blow it up for you. And there's a surprising amount of information that we get by looking at that traffic going to the database server. This is Oracle TNS, and some of the error messages are really revealing. And again, just to pick one out, error 4031, Oracle unable to allocate 264 bytes of shared memory. So clearly we see here that there's a memory issue. We can see there's a bunch of other errors that are showing what's going on. Even we're seeing some shutdown or Oracle not available, and we're starting to get indication of the nature of the problem. So this can easily be escalated to the DBA who's going to be looking at this. And very quickly we've isolated the problem. We can pass this over to the DBA who can take a look into his access into the Oracle database and see what's actually going on with the memory or the server or that sort of thing. But the point is, he might not have known which server to look at. And he still might have connectivity, and he might still say it's not his problem. But here we go. We've got some real good proof of the root cause here being the database. So what I wanted to talk about next is basically just a use case. And following on the theme of, okay, Citrix might be blamed, in this case, as printer's issue. Might be nothing to do with Citrix at all, but you know, it gets blamed. And for this company here, consumer products companies, it needed to get products out of their warehouses and out to distribution. And the problem is those lorries or trucks, they needed to have a dispatch note. And if they didn't have a dispatch note, the truck's not going to leave. Problem with that, it costs money. In this case, customer would calculated 150 K dollars loss every hour the trucks were there. And of course, if the trucks are not leaving, then other trucks cascade behind it. So they spent ages trying to figure out what was going on. Why couldn't they print? Of course, ingenious one quickly pinpointed the root cause of the Citrix print issue, and nothing to do with Citrix. It was actually a rogue device saturating the link with constant DNS lookups. And it's kind of like one of these sort of things that you can't predict is going to happen. It's a device, it's a valid device, but it just went wrong. It saturated that bandwidth and it caused that issue. With ingenious one, we saw the traffic, just like the use case I showed you early. We saw what was going on, found the IP address of the device, quickly switched it off, disconnected it, and everything was up and running. So we kind of, it's a no-brainer here. We can clearly see those sort of issues, and people might have been going into the Citrix servers and taking a look at there. People might have been looking at the database servers and looking there. It's nothing to do with it. So ingenious one was able to end that war room finger pointing and very quickly get to that root cause, minimizing that financial exposure of the organization. So coming to the end of my deck here, and it's kind of a summary, and really it just stems from that dashboard, really. ASI combined with that Citrix Ready program, our support for Citrix, gives us visibility is not only the NetScaler interaction, the Zen app and Zen desktop, the VDI interaction, but also the network, the enablers, and also any other back-end app services that is going on in the background. So it's hugely powerful to do that triage. If you're a Citrix admin, it's not me. You now have an application that actually helps you prove that it's not you, because we can see into everything else. So my concluding slide here really is ingenious one assures critical Citrix services. So what we're doing here, holistic, continuous monitoring and real-time analysis. So everything I showed you is in real time. The dashboard updates in real time. We get the alerts in real time, so we see what's going on, what tiers affected, what applications affected. Provides efficient, effective service triage. And really, that promotes that collaborative approach to problem solving. So it's no longer a war room. It's actually different teams collaborating, even with the same tool set. And I think you probably would have noticed in terms of whether I showed you the Citrix or the database or the load balancer use case, the NetScaler use case in the example, it's the same service monitor, just slightly different metrics and names to the devices. We're getting similar metrics, performance, errors, and you're able to use that. The different teams are able to use the same tool set to actually solve the issue. So why are we doing this? To keep revenue impacting applications running at optimal performance and reliability. So there's the business driver for all of this. Without that, I gave you the example of the Citrix printing is a key example, but we've got so many examples where this is just like imperative to making sure these business services are operating effectively and generating revenue. And of course, the final one is leveraging your investment in VDI and mobility infrastructure, making sure you get the most out of it, the most efficiency of what's going on there, and that's the whole point of what VDI and this infrastructure is all about. So that's the end of my slide presentation here. So I'm going to hand it back over to Anil to take a look at any questions that we may have.
All right. Thank you very much, Ray. I mean, this was a very wonderful presentation. With the questions I'm seeing already, I'm pretty sure most of our attendees are already impressed with the product, and we have a lot of questions coming in. So let me quickly jump into it.
Okay.
So the very first question. So do we need any configuration, or how much? What's the configuration requirement? Even before ingenious one can start the discovery, is this a multi-appliance install?
Okay, so that's there's a lot of questions there. Okay, so we need instrumentation. So the instrumentation needs to provide the visibility of the interactions to the Zen apps, the Zen desktops, and all that sort of things. And as I said, typically we have a physical device that plugs into span ports or taps in the network and sees that interaction. So that's kind of the first thing. And you can have one or many appliances sitting in your network. The second question relies on, okay, when we create the service discovery, we kind of want to bound it a little bit. So I could have had the discovery say, look, discover everything that specified those apps that I wanted to, bound my discovery. So I would just show you the Citrix type things.
That sounds good, Ray. Right. So. I mean, we got this question from a couple of users actually. Do we need any kind of agent?
Traffic, the CGP, the ICA traffic, the HTTPS traffic, the database traffic, all that, that's all network. And because we see that network traffic, that's how we actually do our calculations of the performance of a particular server, because we see the latency of those interactions, we see how many they are, so that's load balancing, how busy they are, and also any errors that we're seeing from the servers themselves. That traffic comes over the wire. So no agents involved here, it's just purely using the network traffic to get our information.
Right, that sounds wonderful. Even I did not know that. That's
right.
Good to know. Right. So one very interesting question and a suggestion. I think this is something every administrator would like to have. So ingenious one, as we've already seen, can really detect the problems where exactly it is. So once it detects, can we have any resolution links built in?
So just, can you say that again? Any resolution links? Did you mean sort of escalation to other applications or?
I think it's like, I mean, once problem is detected, let's say on a Synapse server, so you click on it and it shows some possible resolutions, something like that.
Ah, okay, I see what you mean. So our focus is really more about just indicating the particular server or whatever it is, and the nature of the issue. That gives the triage aspect of it. So actually giving you like information to say, oh yeah, you need to up the memory on this, or you need to give it more CPU. That's not our domain to actually do. So we'll just point you at the server that's suffering, and then the resolution is done by, let's say, the Citrix admin in the case of a Citrix thing, who will know what to do with that particular server. And the real point here is that, okay, how do you find the server that's suffering, and should I say that's causing the issues? So it might not be alerting the actual server itself, but what we're seeing is the traffic going to that is causing problems to the user. So we're giving you sort of different information, which allow you to then say, okay, well, that server's not alerting, but NetScout is telling me that that is responding slowly, so I need to look into that, and I need to find out why it is. And it might be because it doesn't have enough CPU, or it doesn't have enough memory, or it's not connected correctly. But that's the sort of thing. What we've done is found which one it is.
So sounds really good, Ray. So one more this is something to do with the licensing.
Okay.
So do the customers need to purchase a special Citrix module or license for the Citrix features, which you demonstrated earlier?
So the answer is no. With ingenious One, you have the appliances and ingenious One, and effectively out of the box, it supports all these protocols that I was talking about today. So this ICA, the HTTPS. We don't charge per, let's say, per module. We don't have that kind of pricing model. It's extremely simple. You get ingenious One, you get all the apps supported. So it becomes, we're proud of our, let's say, simplified pricing model in these contexts.
Awesome.
And,
All right.
and Anil, that also goes for Oracle. I showed you Oracle, SQL Server, web, database, other layers as well. It's the same. We don't, even for voice as well, the voice applications itself that we actually, like things like SIP or those sort of things, we also don't charge for those ASIs.
So that's very good, Ray. I think most of the customers would love to buy it in that case. All right, so we have some customers who already have ingenious One to monitor bandwidth utilization in their environment.
Okay.
So how easy is it for them to switch to monitoring all the Citrix components as well?
Okay, well it's really easy. So there's a couple of things. I mean, effectively you just enable the app in ingenious One. It's there. It's probably switched on by default, but you just enable it so that you make sure that you're monitoring for ASI. If you want to look at the Citrix channels, so of course with CGP you have different channels, you can switch that on as well, so you can actually see the utilization of the different channels, the thick wire or the voice or whatever channels that you might have, so you can monitor those as well. So a couple of configurations to actually do, and then off you go.
That's easy then.
Oh yeah, oh it's very easy. Yeah, like all our apps, you go into global settings and you kind of just switch it on.
Sounds good. And yeah, I mean, while we got this question while you were at the section where you showed the ingenious One dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
So can the administrator create their own dashboard with their own views and customize? Let's say a Citrix admin sees only the service related to Citrix, and Oracle or a database admin sees his own service. Can we do such
Okay.
customization?
Okay, A really good question. So absolutely. So we can actually create it on a per user basis. So one user gets one view, another user gets another view, or another series of users gets another different views. You set this up in the effectively the service hierarchy. And really, in this demonstration that I did today, I showed you kind of one service hierarchy, which was the Citrix Enterprise Services, where you saw those 5 tiers, I think it was. You can create
Mhm.
multiple of those, and you effectively not share them, but you just give the right people visibility to whichever tiers they want, whichever apps they want. In fact, it goes much beyond there in terms of what reports they can run, what monitors they can drill down into. So we can really customize things if you want to do it that way. So give them visibility to just what they need.
Okay, sounds good. Uh, all right, I've got a couple of repeated questions, but let me address it once again. So we have one user asking if we buy this buy Ingenious One platform, can we monitor n number, I mean multiple Citrix products and multiple Citrix farms, or how does it work?
So I mean, basically, it's pretty simple actually. So we instrument in the network, so we just see the traffic that's going. So you place the instrumentation in front of the various servers effectively, I mean logically, which you want to monitor. And so our InfiniStreams effectively have multiple interfaces so that you can actually split it up into different interfaces. You can split it up into different IP addresses. So however you want to say slice and dice that information, you can create it and then create a separate service dashboard or service tile just for that part of the service. So it's pretty flexible what you can do. So if I understand the question correctly, yes, you can do that.
Sounds good. And I'm pretty sure there are other vendors who might have similar monitoring tools already implemented. We might have customers who have been using that.
Hmm.
So uh, can Ingenious One be a replacement for all those n number of tools?
Well, I mean, as you can see from what we can do, the system's hugely powerful. So it's a good question, and we can have visibility, or we have visibility of, let's say, all the layers that actually make up the service, and we can segregate and separate and all that sort of thing. So we can work in tandem with other tools. We can replace them, but typically what our view and one of our uniquenesses is the fact that we have this holistic view, and we're not just a component tool looking at a specific server or type of server. So because we see everything, we enable you to pinpoint where in the network, which server, etc., that you need to go and fix. Now, of course, there may be already a deep dive monitoring tool that's looking into, let's say, memory utilization in a particular server. So we can hand over and they can actually take a look at the memory on that particular server using that tool. So we can be quite complementary as well in terms of the tools. Remembering that just the fact that understanding memory utilization doesn't tell you whether the server is slow or fast. We tell
That's
you which one's slow or fast because we see the interaction, the real user interaction, and then you can use an offset to those other tools which may have information about saying, okay, why this server is particularly slow. So we work complementary with different tools and have a really good focus at that service triage aspect.
That sounds wonderful, Ray, I mean, to have a product which complements other products, so that customers do not have to remove something which would have costed them a lot.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that sounds wonderful. So there's one more question. So are the error code distribution legend customized or by SNMP attributes? Uh,
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So are the error codes customized? Um, so okay, uh, let's try and reframe that one. I didn't see that one. So we don't poll devices with SNMP to get our information about that utilization. We look at the network. So in terms of looking at SNMP errors, if that was the question, then we don't actually use SNMP to poll our devices. So that's what ASI is about, looking at the network traffic. In terms of using SNMP to generate alerts, absolutely. We send out alerts based on, let's say, baselines or thresholds or whatever it is. So in the event that there is a problem, and you saw the problem in the database, or there's a problem with a particular set of users, we can send out SNMP traps to those third-party systems which actually do consume those SNMP alerts. In that, we can represent information about the errors that we're seeing or the responsiveness that we're seeing of the service.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good, Ray. I think we have many more questions still coming in, but we are really running short of time for today.
Understood.
But we'll try and but I think me or Ray would definitely come back to each and every questions via the registered email address. All right. So one very common question, since this was a very exciting webinar, we have most of the participants asking if the slides and the recording of this webinar would be shared. The answer is yes. We will share the recording with all the attendees within a day or two to your registered email addresses. All right, and with that said, we are about to end today's webinar. I want to take a moment again and thank Ray from NetScout for making this fantastic presentation and sharing great insights with us. And last but not the least, I want to thank each and everyone who have attended this webinar today in the Citrix Ready Technical Webinar Series. And this shall conclude our broadcast today. Thank you so much.